In this short tutorial, we'll look at how to create customized templates within Enerdeq browser and when you might use those customized templates. Enerdeq browser is one of the products that is found within the S&P Energy portal. You will need a login and password to launch the platform. Once you've launched the platform, it will open you up to the Enerdeq browser homepage. Within the Enerdeq browser homepage, at the very top, you'll see a black toolbar across the top of your screen. To customize templates, you'll go to My Templates, and then you'll have several options once you select this box. Data templates, which will give you the ability to customize spreadsheets such as Excel or CSV files, graph templates, or production summary templates. We also have customized templates. If you're not in the Well in Production database, we have activity and rig templates as well. Data templates and activity rig templates will work the same way as far as the overall process. For today's quick session, I'm going to show you data templates. Once you select the item that you want, it will change this page. And you'll have the ability here to launch into graphs or production summaries from here. The first thing when you're creating these customized templates is to really think about, do you want well data or do you want production data? You'll select well or production by highlighting the little circle here. Each of these will work the same way. The big difference is going to be the columns of data, the attributes that you're sending out. You'll say create template, or if someone has shared one with you, you can import it. I'll show you how to share these a little bit later on. At the very top of your list here, you will see the customized public S&P created templates here. You can copy these and use it as a guide to create other things from. You'll notice here I have some underneath that, and the reason that I know these are actually created by me is because I do have an edit button where I can go in and make any adjustments to these particular spreadsheets. I also have a delete button as well, or I can share. When I share this with one of my colleagues, my colleague would go in and say import template. The same would work for me. If someone shares a template with me, I would come in and import through the same process. You'll also see a created date, which all of these customized ones were created. To start over without copying any of the pre-created ones or editing one that's already been made, you'll say create new template. Once again, the attributes will reflect whether or not you've chosen well or production data. You'll have an attribute list that you can either expand or you can use the little plus and minus signs next to each folder to expand all of the items that are within there. There's kind of a couple of moving pieces here to creating a template, and it's really finding those different attributes that you want and then moving them from the box on the left over to the box on the right. For instance, if I wanted something in completions data, I have two ways to move it to this box. If I scroll down just a little ways here, you'll see all these different attributes. Maybe I want total fluid. So I'm going to select that attribute and use this arrow to move it into this box. As I start going through all the attributes, I might want to start adding other items. And I could also double-click that item and move it over to the box. I'm just going to go through a handful of items. As you're going through here, take some time to really identify what it is that you're looking for. Now, once I've went through and selected the items throughout this list that I want, I can then manually edit this so that my spreadsheet is exactly the way that I want it to be. To do so, I'll select the item, and I have an up and down arrow just to the left of the box. And when I use this arrow, I can make any adjustments here. So if I wanted to readjust my spreadsheet so that API is on the far left-hand side, I would put that at the top of my box. And what is at the bottom is going to be on the very far right-hand side. So I'm going left to right, how I want these columns to actually look in my export. Before I save this, I will need to give this a name. Once I give it a name, then I can save. And now when I export out this particular spreadsheet, it's only going to give me those attributes that I want. I also have the ability to customize graphs. Now, when you customize graphs, it'll be the same process of creation. I can see all of the graphs that are created by S&P Global. I also have the created graph that I made as well, and I have an edit button as well as the delete and the share capabilities. When I create new graph, it's going to give me some step-by-step options that I can take here. For instance, I have an X and a Y axis here, where I can say what I want on my y-axis through this box on the left. I'm going to choose oil, gas, and water. I can also adjust my x-axis to be time, or I have many different cumulative volumes that I can also adjust. I can also say if I want it to be linear or logarithmic. I'm going to keep mine automatically scale to fit data, but you do have the ability to restrict through a custom scale the dates that you want, as well as adding tick marks for year and month. Continue will take you on to step 2, where you'll have graph title. You can change the font, the color, the style, and you'll even get a preview as you start changing things within here. One of the things you can do for a graph title is customize, and you'll have the ability to add that customization through your preview. You can also uncheck any of those defaulted items that you may not want. The same will apply for Y as well as X. On your line styles, you can adjust the style of the line if you wanted something maybe a little more bold. You can also change the color of your lines as well as the labeling. You have the option for a legend. If you choose a graph legend, you have a box of items that you can choose from, as well as changing the font, the color, and the style. When you are using the legend, you will select the item that you want. You will use the little circle button to select which line that you want it to be in, 1 through 4, and then you will move it into that box. Once you have a handful of things within boxes, you can move them up, you can move them down. For today, I'm not going to use a graph legend. And then you'll give it a name, and you'll save. The last thing that we'll look at today are the production summaries. So when you use the production summaries, the same process applies where you have the ability to copy. You also will have the customized ones that you can go through and you can edit, as well as delete or share. When you create a new summary template, you'll have 3 steps to complete this. The first is very similar to creating those Excel files, where you'll go through and you will say what items that you want. You'll either double click the item or you'll move it from one box to the other. You'll select continue, and then you can ascend or descend these in any order that you choose. You also have a naming option. Once you've saved any of these, it doesn't matter if you go back to any of these different items now along the toolbar, you will see the template that you created and have the ability to edit, delete, or share. What do we do once we've created it, and where do we see this? I'm going to go back into a query. For this query that I've already created, I'm going to use the browse list and output a few wells into those exports. I will see those exports under the export box. And if I scroll down to well data custom, I will see November 9th. That is the spreadsheet that we created today. If I continue to go on, I will see graphs. And here is my customized graph. Anything that says custom means that you as a user have created that. I also have my production summaries as well. In order to export, I select the box next to the name, and I have those 3 that we've created today, and I'm just going to say submit. Now what is happening here is that these are exporting on the back end. Once these have exported, I can retrieve them one of 2 ways. I can either select the item from here, or I can go to my files. I'm going to use my files today. When I go down to the export November 9th template, this will download onto my machine. I see my production summary. If I go a little further, I will see my graph for each of those wells. And the last one we'll look at here is the spreadsheet. This is the first one that we created where we assigned different columns of information and we said we wanted to align it from the left to the right. One thing to note when you're exporting any of the files, the templates themselves will remain within your Enerdeq browser account. However, we will only keep the exported file for 2 weeks. We assume after 2 weeks that you're going to recreate that file to get the latest data.